Okay, this is section 9.3 day 1, or lesson 9.3 day 1, arithmetic sequences. Probably remember this. We did do this in Algebra 2 last year. I remember going over these. So some of this is review. But our learning target is I can identify a sequence, if a sequence is arithmetic, and I can then write the recursive and explicit formulas. I can use properties of arithmetic sequences and their equations to find missing terms. So first off, what is a sequence? Well, a sequence is just an ordered, so the order that we give it to you matters, an ordered progression of numbers. So it's just a series of numbers, an order of numbers. And an arithmetic, which you might look at as arithmetic, but when we're talking about a sequence, it's pronounced arithmetic. An arithmetic sequence is a special kind of sequence. So it's a sequence where consecutive terms have a common difference. Which just means if you take any term minus the previous term, you'll get the same answer every time. That it's going to be they're the same difference apart. So we're going to look at this and think of it as it's going to look familiar. It's almost going to seem like, well, it kind of looks like this is a linear equation, and you're right when you think that. So if I plug these numbers in and I said that n is 1, that just means the first term. So n represents which term it is. A sub n, or a sub 1, represents the value of it. So a sub 1 is 1. If n is 2, that means a sub 2 is 4. And can I see the progression here? Now if I plot these points, 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 7, and then 4, 10, it makes a straight line. Okay, so if you're thinking that looks linear, it is linear. It's going to have all the same behaviors as a linear function, which we're good at linear functions. You spent almost all of Algebra 1, a good portion of it, dealing with linear functions. So arithmetic sequences are linear. Therefore, they have a slope, which is also known as the common difference. So that common difference is basically the slope. Now a recursive formula. So a recursive formula for this guy. First off, you have to say what a sub 1 is. So in a formula, you got to state what's the first term, and then every term, any n, any a sub n. So this just means any term is going to be the term before it. So a sub n minus 1 means the one right before it. So if I'm saying a sub 4, this would be a sub 3 because it's the one right before it, plus that common difference. Okay. So are the following sequences arithmetic? If so, state the recursive formula. So what I'm looking for is any term minus the previous, is it the same difference? Or you could just say, am I adding the same thing every time? So up by 2, up by 2, up by 2, up by 2. So this one is yes. The first term is 2. Any term is going to be the previous term plus 2. How about this guy here? So 19, 18, 16. Well, here the difference is 1, or drops minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. That's not arithmetic, so we just put no for that. That's not the kind we're studying. 5 to 10, that's an increase of 5. Increase of 10, increase of 20. No, it's not the same increase every time. 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. See, so this one is yes. Got to stay with the first term is. The first term is 1/2. Any term would be the previous term plus half, going up by 1/2. Down by 2.5, down by 2.5, down by 2.5. So this one is yes, it is arithmetic. The first term is 20, and any term is going to be the previous term minus 2.5. You say plus negative 2.5 or minus 2.5. Okay. Flip this guy over. Now, why? So recursive formula is pretty simple. It probably didn't take very long to understand that, and we just do that all day, but why is that limited? So why is having the recursive formula limited? Well, what if I said, the first term is, 5, and then 7, and then 9, and I said, by the way, what's the 750th term? That's going to take us a long time to find the 750th term. So you can only find a term if you know the term before it. Meaning you can't just fast forward ahead and get whatever term you want. You have to find all the terms before it. So if you want the 100th term, well, you have to know the 99th. To know the 99th, you have to know the 98th, and so on. Okay? Now, there's two of these methods. Okay? Now, I'll explain them both. Both kind of simple. So let's do this one first. I'm going to do an example, and then I'll show you where these methods come from. The first method is what you'll see in books. The second method, I think, is probably about 3 times easier, but it doesn't really follow the sequence idea. It's very specific to arithmetic and a nice shortcut for arithmetic. But this first one here, if I'm going from 5 to 2 to -1 to -4, that means, maybe I'll write this out a little bigger here. So this is a sub 1, a sub 2, a sub 3, a sub 4. So if I want to find the next term, well, I guess this is find the 95th term, so I got to zoom ahead to the 95th term on this one. But if I wanted to find any given term, I'll just say a sub 5. We'll just do this for now and kind of talk about how to get that one, and then I can do this one. So if I wanted to find just the 5th term for now, not the 95th, but just the 5th term, well, I got to start with the first term, and I got to add, well, if I add, or in this case, subtract, so add -3, add -3, add -3, so I'm going to add -3, and in this case, I did it 1, 2, 3 times. Whoops, let's do it a 4th time to get to a sub 5. So I'm going to do it 4 times. Okay, so a sub 5 would equal 5 plus -3 times 4. But if I wanted to get any term here, a sub n, I would start with that first term plus the common difference times, and then if you notice this was 4 jumps to get to the 5th term. To get to the 4th term, it was 1, 2, 3 jumps. 3 jumps to get to the 4th term. It's always 1 less, so it would just be whatever number you're trying to get to, you're going to take 1 away, -1. Okay, so that's not too bad. So if I want to find this one, I do a, which I'll just write it up here. I'll say that's a sub n equals a sub 1 plus, in this case, the common difference times n minus 1. Because this is just generic. -3 is specific to this problem. They're not all the same. So this would be the generic formula for finding any explicit formula. So on this one, if I want to find the 95th term, so I say a sub 95 is going to equal the first term plus, and I really need to do this. I need to do -3. I need to distribute this out, so -3n plus 3. Okay. Now notice, this was my slope, was going down by 3. 5, I'm actually going to add 5, I'm going to add 3 to 5 and get 8. 8 plus, actually, let's say, yeah, let me switch that to negative. This would be 8 minus 3n, and that's my final, what am I doing here? I got myself all confused. I'm not finding the 95th term, I'm simplifying this one. So I just do n for right now. I didn't plug in 95, so I'm not finding the 95th term. So a sub n is going to equal 8 minus 3n. It started at 5, but 3 is in here. Well, the reason why that is you eventually had to add 3 to get to your y-intercept. This is the first term. This is what you get when you plug in 1. Well, my y-intercept is what you get when you plug in 0. Remember, linear equations are what you get when you plug in 0. Okay? So the other method is, let's just treat this like a linear equation. A sub n is going to equal a sub 0, which is the y-intercept, plus the slope, plus d times n. Well, how you get this is by taking a sub 1, you're going to subtract the difference. Okay, so this is kind of the other way of doing it. Find the y-intercept by what's the difference. If it's going down by 3, let's add 3 to get the the 0th term, which doesn't really exist, but this is the first term. Go back, find the 0th term, and that's your y-intercept. And then the slope is just down by 3s. Okay, so I did all this work to find that explicit formula using the way the book says. Or I could just say, well, the term is going to be the 0th term. So if the difference is by 3, go backwards. This must have been 8. 8 minus 3 is 5, minus 3 is 2. So this is 8, and then I'm going down by 3, so my slope is 3. It's a lot faster. Yeah. So if I'm trying to find the 95th term now, a sub 95 is going to equal 8 minus 3 times 95. Even though the 95th term is 94 jumps from the first term, we just moved it, we took everything and we slid it back one spot. So instead of starting at 5, let's start at 8 and make this 95 jumps. So there's your extra jump to get to 95. Okay. Now put this in the calculator, you get negative 277. Okay. Which kind of makes sense. You started in the positives, you're subtracting, and here you are in the negatives, so it should be a negative number. You got to subtract 3 95 times from 8 or 94 times from 5, however you want to look at it. Okay. Find the recursive and explicit formula. So we're going to write both of them now. So in this guy, the big thing is, what is the common difference? So here you're adding 7. So D equals 7. So my recursive formula, a sub 1 equals negative 4. Any term is going to be the previous term plus 7. There's my recursive. Now to find my explicit, again, I just like to think, well, if this is my first term, what's my 0th term? What's my y-intercept? So if I'm adding 7, that means I need to subtract 7 this direction. So it'd be negative 11. So a sub n equals negative 11 plus 7n. Your slope is 7 because you're going up by 7 every time. Okay. Over here, my first term is 20. Any term is going to equal the previous term plus 3. Your common difference is 3. Or I could say a sub n equals, this is my first term, what's the term before it? What's the y-intercept term? 23 minus 3n, because I'm subtracting 3 every time, so my slope is negative 3. It's decreasing by 3, because your common difference was negative 3. So back here I need to change this to a minus. I just now realize that. So that's a big old minus there, not a plus. Finding the missing term. So arithmetic, we're trying to find the term between. And the nice thing about this, since everything increases the same, it's 16 plus something, plus that exact same amount is 72, this is literally going to be, when we say arithmetic mean, we're actually saying that's the average. The geometric mean, which is something we're going to learn in a couple of days, is not the average as you know it. When you hear mean and average, add them up divided by 2, or add them up and divided by the number of numbers, that's the same thing as arithmetic mean. Now, the technical thing, arithmetic mean, the technical formula for this is a sub n minus 1 plus a sub n plus 1 divided by 2 is going to equal a sub n. That's like the official formula. So if I'm trying to find this a sub n, take the term before it, 16, plus the term after it, 72, and divide by 2. So 72 plus 16 divided by 2 is 44. How about this guy? How am I going to do this? I'm missing 3 in between. That's okay. Let's find this one first. I can find that one first. So if I took 2 plus negative 22 divided by 2, I get negative 10. And now I use these two to find that one. 2 plus negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 4. And then use these two to find that one. Negative 10 plus negative 22 divided by 2, that's negative 16. Okay. What term number is 747? So a sub what? That's the nth term. Which term is that? Okay. So first, let's just find the formula. What's the explicit formula? So a sub n would equal, here's my formula. Looks like I'm going up by 6 every time. So my slope is 6. If this is my first term, this is what you get when you plug in 1. What would I get when I plug in 0? Go back 6 units, that'd be -3. Now plug in what you know, okay? So I know, I want to know what is the a sub nth term. I don't know what it is yet, but it's 747 is the value. So I'm going to plug 747 in as a value and say that is the nth term. What's n? Let's solve for n. So add 3 over 750 equals 6n divided by 6. N equals 125. That means 747 equals a sub 125. So it's a 125th term in the sequence. Again, all that comes from knowing the explicit formula. If you do the explicit formula, you can find just about anything. Asking a little bit different here, given that the 5th term, a sub 5 is 5, the 7th term is 11. Write the explicit formula. So first off, what's the common difference? Well, if I want to know what the a sub 6 is, in between, I could add these together and divide by 2. It looks like 11 plus 5 is 16, divided by 2 is 8. The common difference must be 3. It's going up by 3. So if I know that, let's see, so a sub n is going to equal, I know that my slope is 3. I really need to know what is my first term, or you can say your 0 term, I guess, but your first term, what's your a sub 1? Okay, well, one pair I know is that when I plug in 5, I get 5. So I plug in 5, I get 5. A sub 5 would equal a sub 1 plus 3 times 5, which a sub 5 is 5. It just so happens they're both 5. So 5 equals a sub 1 plus 15. A sub 1 equals -10. So on my explicit formula, the first term is -10. What's the 0th term? Well, you had to go up 3 to get to -10. That means the 0th term, the y-intercept, would be -13 plus 3n. So there's my explicit formula. And then to find the 100th term, now that I got my explicit formula, everything's pretty easy. Plug 100 in for n, you get 287.